if you're planning to give the CELPIP exam, it's your first time or you have failed multiple times, these 10 tips will save you the stress of rebooking or reevaluation. You follow these 10 tips and your 9+ in the exam is guaranteed. Now, the 10th tip is going to cover that in detail, how you can get a 9+ and why most people fail and are stuck at only 8, especially in writing and speaking. So let's go on to our first tip. And by the way, we're going to cover all 4 modules in these tips, very specific, no fluff. The first tip is our templates. Most people fail in writing and speaking. That's where people are going to score 8, when in other modules they're going to score 11 or 12. The really talented speakers, even native speakers. So why they fail in writing and speaking is for a bunch of reasons: grammar, vocabulary, task response, timing, words, and so on. We're not going to get into all those details, but what you should know, what you can do to avoid failure, is follow our templates. I have in the description the templates for writing, speaking parts 1 and 2. Please go to those video links and review our templates. They are gonna cover the starting, middle, and end of your sentences, writing, speaking. It'll cover your structure, complex sentences, vocabulary. So that guarantees that your writing and speaking is mistake-proof. And if you copy paste those words, you get excellent marks in vocabulary and range as well as expressions. Now, you also miraculously finish on time, whether it's writing or speaking, because these words and phrases do 40% of your work. So check out the links in the description. You wanna follow these templates as a religion. These are super important. You cannot go in the exam just making up your own words. Just use the words and phrases that are proven to give people 9, 10, 11 time after time again. Now, the second part is for reading. This is the second tip. When you read anything in CELPIP, it's mostly multiple choice questions. Read the questions first. I always tell that to people. If you read the passage, then you look at the questions, you will once again have to read the passage. So don't waste time, read the questions first, and then when you go to the passage, you will be looking specifically for those keywords, that content, those phrases, or their paraphrasing. This will save you tons of time and it will make you get the accurate answers. Remember, CELPIP reading time is very limited, and recently a lot of people have been failing in CELPIP reading. I'm going to be making a video about CELPIP reading separately this week, so please subscribe if you haven't already to get access to that video. Now, the third thing is, again, my third point is about reading as well. Again, a very challenging module, especially in the last few months. In reading parts 1 and 4, you have a second part after the multiple choice questions where you get a paragraph. And in that paragraph, there is a response to the actual article that was written. So in part 1, it's a response letter to the original letter. And in part 4, it is a comment made by someone who read the initial article that was in section 1 of part 4. So in both of these cases, they're basically response letters. All right, here, you do not have to look at the questions first. What you can do here is, first of all, give it lesser time than the first section of parts 1 and 4. Because the first section of parts 1 and 4 require you to read the whole passage and find out details. There you really have to understand everything. But in the second part, at this time, you have understood the whole passage. You have understood the first section. You know what the letter or the article is about. That's why most students are able to do this second section of parts 1 and 4 in about 20% of the time. And why, again, this works so easily is because you have understood the article, the initial article so far. So what you can do is make educated, reasonable choices. I don't want to even say guesses, because you're not guessing. You are answering these last few questions based on your knowledge and understanding of the tone of the first section. So for example, in the letter in part 1, if Bob was super friendly and inviting Charlie over for a dinner, then in the response letter, what do you think Charlie would say? Charlie would probably say, sure, I would love to go. So if there's a tone like this that you're looking for among the multiple choice questions, you will be able to figure out what tone or what content to pick and what answer to choose. So you don't need to really go back up and down to answer these questions. In the second part, you can read the tone and make reasonable suggestions. Don't want to say guesses because you can understand them. But if you get confused, you can always go up in the first section and read it and quickly come down. Let's go to listening. Now, in listening, the most important strategy is note-taking. This is not like IELTS or other exams where you have questions in front of you while the audio is being played. Here, the questions come after the audio has been played. During the audio, you have a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, and you are taking notes. using your notes, later you're going to answer the questions that come. So if you have enough notes, you're going to get all answers correct. Simple as that. If I gave you a transcript of what was said and I put it in front of you, you will know the answer to everything, right? So if you write as much as possible, you can get the correct answers. So here you need to improve your writing speed. You also need to write very clearly. Doesn't mean that you need to have a good writing. Most likely you need to have a bad writing because you're writing fast, but you need to write clear points, what was said, and if it was something with an expression such as it was said positively, put a smiley face next to it. If it was said negatively, put a negative face next to it. This is more important when you go to part 6 because that's where there are different viewpoints and there are people who agree and disagree on certain content. So there you can use this because some questions will ask you, was Kathy positive about this? Or how did Sarah disagree with this person? Even if they don't ask you who was happy or sad, they're going to ask you interpretative questions. So you need to know what the feeling and the mood was when you were answering those questions. Another thing is the way you take notes can be made much faster. Here's an example. So this is a quick example right here about note taking. Here, the actual transcript was very long. Okay, this is part 4 of your listening. And what the transcript said was, there's a tree, there was a bird sitting on top of a tree, and this is me drawing the transcript. Okay, I'll tell you why I did this. A bird is sitting on top of a tree, and it was, all of a sudden, it fell down in a pool. This is a pool, all right, pardon my bad drawing, but this is a pool. And there's a guy you can see is astonished, so I made astonishing face instead of writing that he is astonished or surprised. And he saw the bird, and the bird then went out and said something. The bird actually talked, and that is why this guy is, again, astonished because of the bird dropping. Then the bird starts to talk. Now, when this happened, this guy took the bird home, takes it home, and after a few days of having the bird in the house, this guy realized that the bird came from research. It was actually a research project. And that's that. So you can see I said so many things. If I started to write all those things, I wouldn't be able to do that. I have to use a combination here of pictures and words to describe or summarize everything that is being said in the transcript. This is how you can do notes much faster. And remember, I still haven't written everything, and no one can. The listening is fast. So I remember from cues that when it says takes it home, the next part is after a few days, he discovered himself that it came from research. So that is given. It's something that I would remember. It's something I can even guess from reading these notes. And that's good enough. So you need to keep the note taking in 3 things: memory, words, and pictures. And that will ensure you capture every content of the transcript. Now, when it comes to part 5 listening, and this is our 5th tip, you need to make sure you look at the video as well. This is a listening test, but you also have to visually see people, because in this part, a major problem and a place where a lot of people make mistakes is they don't see who is saying what. Now, if the question says, what did the guy with the blue hair say? Or what did the bald guy say? What did the girl with the glasses say? Or how did the guy on the right argue with the girl on the left? So if you don't know who was on the right and left, how the person looked like, their sweater, their shirt, you will not get the answers. So make sure you look and see who is saying what. Visual interpretation is also important, as well as their expressions. Are they positive, negative, again, neutral? There could be questions based on how this person felt. So it's not completely listening when it comes to part 5 listening. It's listening and looking and observing as well. Now, when it comes to writing, it's very important to have the right structure. There are 3 points that people lose very quickly for structure, coherence, cohesion, and paragraphing. 3 points in total for all of this, and sometimes even more, depending on how badly you screw it up. So if you want to see the written version of this, go to the templates video that is in the description, as I mentioned earlier, for writing. But I'm going to tell you briefly how this works. If you're doing part 1, letter or email, you want to make 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph in the formal letters mentions the purpose of your writing, and there's 3 body paragraphs, and then your conclusion, which is the ending greeting, which is something like looking forward to talking with you, or something more natural or unique, which you will find in my templates. Again, the video for that is in the description. So that is formal letter, intro, conclusion, and 3 body paragraphs in the middle. For the informal, you have, again, intro and conclusion, 3 paragraphs in the middle. Here, the only difference is in the intro and conclusion, you're just greeting the other person. Hey, how's it going? How are the kids? That goes at the start. At the end, it's something like, I hope I see you guys soon. Can't wait to meet up. Talk to you soon. Stuff like that, okay? And then there's 3 paragraphs in the middle for both letters or both emails. What are the 3 paragraphs in the middle? They simply cover the 3 bullet points that are in the question. Simple as that. So for each bullet point, you have 1 paragraph. That easily separates every task separately. That will never confuse you or the examiner. It's going to be very clear that 1 bullet belongs to 1 paragraph. And that's it, 5 paragraphs, not more in part 1. In part 2, you have 4 paragraphs. Again, the template, description. Now here, you want to start your intro with giving your opinion and choosing one side. Don't choose 2 sides. Always choose one side. In the conclusion, you're going to rephrase your opinion. In body 1, you're going to give 2 points, 1 to 2, but I really prefer 2. That's where people score most marks. 2 points why you support your option. Body 2, you give 2 points why you oppose the other option. That's it, okay? That's how you make the 4 paragraphs. That's the structure for task 1 and task 2. Let's talk about speaking. A major mistake here is you, the candidate, thinking the more you talk, the more points you make, the more marks you will get, which is absolutely incorrect. A rule to follow is 2 to 4 points max per question. In all 8 parts of CELPIP speaking, don't do more than 4 points. If you're doing too many points, you are giving small sentences in a minute or a minute and a half, small sentences with not enough description. And if you don't have enough description, it's not going to be complex. It's not going to have a range, and it's going to feel rushed. It's also going to keep you out of breath. So make sure your sentences are long. You have a combination of complex and simple sentences. We'll get to that in a sec. And make sure you have quality points. Every point you mention is explained well. It's descriptive and detailed instead of you giving multiple points, like 10 points in a minute, and not explaining any one of them. So quality versus quantity is a major confusion in CELPIP. Make sure you have more quality versus quantity. Now let's talk about our next point, which is complex sentences. So here is where the previous point is going to make a lot more sense. Complex sentences are sentences which have 2 parts in them. For example, if I start a sentence with although, I'm going to say, although I am really sick today, next thing I'm going to say is, I will still go to work. So there's 2 points here. Now, if I just said, I'm sick today, next sentence, I'll still go to work, or but I'll still go to work. I am separating the sentences. This will not give me more marks. But if I say, although I'm sick, I'm still going to go to work, this becomes a complex sentence because I'm mixing 2 things into one. There are a few words you can use at the start of sentences to make your sentences complex in writing and in speaking. So the first one would be something like although, there's due to, considering, concerning, because of, while, and there are more, but you should use at least 3 to 4 of them in your speaking and 3 to 4 of them in your writing overall in task 1 and 2, because the more complex sentences you use, the more marks you will get. Remember though, caution here, don't use all sentences as complex. Make sure you have a mixture of complex and simple sentences for both writing and speaking. The next thing is speaking pauses. Now, we talked a lot about what to do while speaking. What about what to do in between your sentences? That's where a lot of mistakes happen because here is where people put people say, you know, like, so people put fillers here, or sometimes they have a long pause or a long okay, or they repeat the previous point. So lots of messy things happen in between your sentences. The 2 best things you can do are pause, okay, and use connectors. So if you are in between sentences, you can pause for 1 to 2 seconds. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it shows confidence. It shows control. If you don't pause, it shows nervousness. So pausing will help you control the flow. Also, if you don't want to pause or you want to keep a mixture, which is good, keeping a mixture of things is important, use connectors. Connectors could be things like moreover, also, accordingly, likewise, and if it's contradiction, it's however, nonetheless, nevertheless. If it's conclusion, it's therefore, hence, and thus. There you go. Use good connectors for good range and vocabulary marks. Let's talk about tip number 10, which is how you can score a 9. The problem is when you see samples online with speaking that have really easy speaking with people saying, you know, and making lots of grammar mistakes, and the mark there is a 9 for that student. That just frustrates me. That really frustrates me because in real life, that does not happen. In real life, same thing with writing. The samples you see online, not all of them, but most of them, that easily tell you if you write like this, you speak like this, you're going to get a 9. Forget about it. Let me tell you, if you make more than 2 mistakes, grammar mistakes, you're not going to get a 9 in writing or speaking. There are a lot of other factors that come into it, but that's what I've seen. You can understand that getting a 9 is hard because native speakers are not able to get a 9, okay? I always tell people it's almost like you need a PhD level of English, a degree in literature to score a 9 or more. You have to be excellent. You have to be very different than every other speaker or writer. It needs to be a very, very extraordinary level of English. So if you want to see the real mock test, how the real exam looks like, check out our course in the description. That will have 5 mock tests that reflect the real exam. We also provide free feedback, so we'll tell you what you're going to score in real life in writing and speaking, and what we say is usually exactly what students score in the real exam. But even if you don't take the course, if you do take the course, do not take 9+ lightly. That is something where you make no mistakes, you talk even better than a native speaker, because native speakers make mistakes too. So your level should be better than that, and your writing should be excellent. Writing especially would need a lot of complex vocabulary, phrases. Speaking, it's more on expression, but also vocab. But remember, it's not the day-to-day English you speak. It's not a normal English test. And even if you make 0 mistakes, you might still not score a 9 because you will need complex sentences, vocabulary, and all those fancy things. So it's a very hard thing to do. And I want to just make sure you understand that, because people think it's an English exam, they book it in 2 days, and they realize that they have to book it now 3 or 4 more times because every time they take it lightly. If you have failed 4 or 5, 6 times, which a lot of you have, you know that 9 is not an easy score to get. To guarantee a 9, you can also check out our course in the description. We make sure you will get that score if you don't. We provide a money-back guarantee. We also offer tutoring, and we also tell people, take a tutor, get coaching, make sure you're ready for the exam, give it time, and that will ensure you don't waste money and time on reevaluation and rebooking the exam, because it's very, very expensive. The channel here is dedicated to CELPIP students, and all content that is going to be upcoming is going to be full of CELPIP packed content, a lot of free content coming up. So please subscribe if you want to get access to that. Please like and share it with your friends too, because a lot of people are struggling with it. If you and your friends follow these tips, it's a guaranteed path to success. All the best.